webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And welcome everybody to your Thursday edition of Live Market Update and Charts of the Day. Great to see you here. Thank you very much for popping in to our twice weekly meander around markets to see not only what's going on, but what might go on next and what opportunities that may provide as we check out some charts. As always, of course, remember that this is for educational purposes only. Let me just see what's on here. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So this message is important. Please make sure you do your own due diligence on anything you see here. Make sure you follow trading plans. And of course, make sure that you manage risk on every trading action. That's entry and exit according to your own personal trading objectives and financial situation. Thank you very much to everybody who said hello, both in the chat box and in YouTube, on the live stream, in the GoToWebinar questions, of course. Welcome also to those of you who are playing catch up and watching this a little later on YouTube. If you are, then if you wouldn't mind clicking that little like button, that's always really appreciated. To those of you I can see in the questions, thank you very much, Wayne, for the heads up on the AV situation across the board. It's always really appreciated. Brian, good to see you here. Hi, Neil, G'day, Hugh, and Mark. You're all very, very welcome. Thank you for investing the time to say hello. Always really appreciated. Right, let's check out the headlines on this Thanksgiving Day. Lots to give thanks for, I'm sure, for everybody. I hope it's a good one for you, even though we obviously don't celebrate it in the same way that happens over in the US. But I'm sure if you've got people over there, they're taking full advantage of this holiday. Right, okay, across the news today, US markets continue to rally as they've done for most of this week. I talked last night on In a Circle about how the likelihood of a Fed rate cut has changed fairly significantly over the last few days. It's been a little bouncy, for sure. The Reserve Bank, wow, okay. The FOMC meets on the 10th of December, and you can see now we're back up to 84% chance of a rate cut. That's really changed very, very radically. If we look at a week ago, then the chances of a rate cut was down to 30%. So that's quite staggering. The change in that. It was, if we look a month ago, it was quite high. Then it dropped off. It was 91 back here a month ago, down to 30, and then over the last week, it's really accelerated. So now looks as though the Fed's going to cut in December, is what's priced in markets. That helped markets to the upside. You can see here, that's where US markets finished up after last night's trading. There was also some good retail earnings, and we are at the back end of the earnings season, and there's only some of the big retailers that are going to influence any sentiment now, apart from individual company movements. So those have come in well so far this week. US futures are pretty neutral, I think, having done their run up over the last few days. The S&P 500 is really actually close to record highs again, quite staggeringly. Nasdaq's still got a little bit of a ground to make up, but we'll have a look at charts of those in a moment. Asian markets moved higher following that positive US lead. The ASX, when last I looked at, I think was up around about 0.45%. European futures are pointing to a cautiously positive open, just simply because of where the European markets closed. They haven't actually moved much in Asian trading so far today. With that increased expectation of a Fed rate cut, the US dollar index has weakened throughout the week, and gold has moved towards the top of a range. Copper's may test resistance, and oil is still looking pretty weak, high in 4-year lows. Now, one thing we did see, we talked about it last night, is that Bitcoin has been very, very precarious particularly over the last week, but really over the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's 36% from its highs. So very much in bear market territory, but we have seen a bounce go on. And we'll have a look at a chart. So it suggests that that may be it for right now. There was a potential threat yesterday that it might be looking a bit shaky again, but it looks as though the buyers have come in. We'll deeper dive on that when we have a look at a chart. Very quiet day today. There's nothing much going on. The highlight from tomorrow, or two highlights from tomorrow, really. There's the European CPI. There's also a Canadian GDP. Nothing really to jump up and down about in terms of moving data. Let's. So here's the futures. You can see there. Only very mildly positive, but as I said, remember the European market shut around here, so they'd done most of their move already yesterday, so pretty flat in terms of the rest of the US session, pretty flat today, so it will be very cautiously positive, if positive at all. You can see we've got weakness in commodities, notably oil is getting having a bit of a rough ride today, as is gold. Copper is pretty well near neutral, and if we look across the currencies, you can see there that the yen, after being around about a third of a percent against the USD yesterday, has gained around about a third of a percent today. So that's really redressed what happened yesterday. A quick look at the ASX. You can see that's dropped off a little bit from where it was a little while ago. Let's just click on this just to not only get an update, but also see what sectors are doing. Got 2-to-1 advances versus decliners. Yeah, we are just drifting off. IT's the outperformer. The only two sectors which are in negative territory, interestingly, materials and energy, but the ones that are, with the exception of IT and healthcare, the rest are fairly tepid gains. Nothing to write home about, but we'll have a look and see if we can find a stock or two that looks interesting. Quick flick on to CNBC just to get that cross check of what Asia's doing. Nikkei's the outperformer. Hang Seng and Shanghai pretty neutral. And ASX holding on to a third of a percent gains, nothing else. So we had four straight days of losses. Now we've got 4 straight days of gains on the S&P 500. Quite bizarre. Anyway, let's check out some charts, shall we? We'll start with the Nasdaq. So you can see that significant bounce of support. We talked about this earlier in the week. This could be a resistance level on here. We're still around about 25 to 50. So that is interesting. I'm not seeing much that's going to move it away from there, but you can see it's been in a fairly tight range of around about 50 points since the middle of the US session, really. So we've had a few hours now of really not very much movement at all. If we look at the S&P 500, just to give you context of everything, let's pop on the daily chart. You can see it's moving ever closer. So we're around about 1.2% from record highs on the S&P 500. That US dollar drifting downwards on the back of that increased likelihood of a Fed rate cut has meant, of course, that gold has had a good week. A little bit flat today. 4,200 is the key level to keep an eye on. We talked about that last night. And copper also looking perky. Added some more after we met yesterday. During the course of the US session, you can see there a strong move into the close. Hitting highs that haven't really been seen intraday since the for about 2 weeks. So the end of 2 weeks ago. So 522 the key level. Right, okay, and as for oil, oil could be just trying to bounce off this level a little bit. That was previous 4-year lows before this moved down. down here. Sorry, this is previous. Let me try that again. That was previous 6-month lows. This line here. Should really change these colours to make it more obvious. But the bottom line there is those 4-year lows on WTI crude. So still in this downward trend channel, still not looking particularly good. The EIA data didn't come in too badly, so that's why we're going to pick up and a hold of that support. And then Bitcoin, as I said, nice bounce on Bitcoin. Almost a take profit on an EA, it looks like there. So really nice bounce off this just over 80,000 level. That was the 36%. But really since then, we've just seen some, that was the end of the weekend. And during this week, we had a good day yesterday. We can see it was right towards the back end of the day. Up until that point, it was bimbling around here. Didn't look as though it was going anywhere, but we've got that strong end of day, some follow through in Asia today also. So Bitcoin looking as though the buyers are thinking that's enough for now in terms of a drop. Okay, so if we look at the US yen, we've got a bounce of 155.84. Looks like on the hourly chart. Strong candle here. That's regained about half of what was lost in the first couple of hours of trading today. So it doesn't look as though there's any passion to push it down below in its range. But this would have been a nice trade if you'd been on top of it. That initial breach through 156.30 down to there, which was a fairly obvious technical move to the downside. So around about a 50 pip drop this morning. We're already, as I said, gained around about 25 pips to the upside from that. Yeah, we're about 16 pips off that next level. So if you're in that might be a point at which to get out of here. Here's the Aussie yen, a little bit weaker this morning. Again, very bouncy this morning. Really good day yesterday. This was this was our chart yesterday, I'm pretty sure. So we've got a really nice move through 101.72 up to 102, which is what we talked about in a circle last night. But you can see from that point, and because it is called a distance for a reason, we had a pullback after testing 101.72 in the last candle and in this one. We're seeing buyers coming back in. So this could be setting up for a potential trend continuation. If we get breached yesterday's highs at 102, it's a nice round number, so maybe a little reluctant to do that, particularly on the back of no new data. Then there's maybe a 22 to 25 22 to 25 pip gain on that. Let's just have a look at our sky to see if this can help. GB pound USD. This is looking interesting. See how long that took me to get. So you've got the double bottom going on the daily chart, and near the 200 MA, 132.53 is the key level to look out for. So if we pop this on this chart here. On the daily chart, you would say it might get stuck around there. So possibly around about 40, 50 pips to the upside. If we look at it on the hourly chart, this looks like a really nice setup, actually. Just pop on the 4-hour chart, you can just see context. So it was last in this range back here on the 29th of October. So a very nice setup here coming along, multi-time frame breach of an important level. And as I said, even though it is maybe 43 pips, it's 43 pips, which is looking really quite likely. It does make sense to have a look at the let's just have a quick check on the Euro USD. Let's see if that's looking very, very similar, isn't it? If we look at the daily chart. Yeah, on the daily chart will look as though we're challenging the key level again. Our upside always looks a bit measly on the daily chart, but that's even less than GB pound USD. There's only about 30, 40 pips there. Not even that. 20, 26 pips up to there. So I would actually go with just check on the US dollar's looking pretty weak against everything apart from the yen. There's the Kiwi, but it's looking like that. What's the Aussie? Let's have a look at the Aussie USD as well. No one planned our flag. No, that's moving into some noise. So I think pretty undoubtedly the one that's standing out is the GB pound, USD, for a potential move up, possibly to around just beneath 133. Anyway, there you go. There's our ER chart of the day for that. Let's have a quick scan around the ASX. Just make sure I'm on the right account. Yes, I am. Some big movers. Robinhood markets had a really good session overnight, but we'll look at the ASX first. So we've been looking at lithium stocks. These have dropped off today a little bit, so not looking particularly good. WiseTech Global having a good day at the office. Looks as though this is not only filled that gap there, but looks as though it might be heading up towards around about 73. Probably a little premature for me to get into this. I'd be looking maybe at 69, 80, 88, somewhere around there. Zipco, we talked about potential reversal yesterday, and there we go. It was on, there were two charts to keep an eye on, I think, yesterday. We talked about PLS and Zip from memory. Here's Zip, and that looks like a great chart to me. There may be a pause at this point here. It's around about that 353. But even if it just gets up, tackles that for a little bit, then that's still going to be around about 4%. It's a good point at which to potentially trail a stop over break even. You can see we've breached the 200 MA, we've breached this key level at 328. That looks quite strong, without a doubt. Let's also look, let's see if we can find PLS. So lithium stocks aren't doing quite as well today, but we shall check in on that. Yeah, it's down pretty significantly. So yeah, failing to breach that 413 again. That's why we're keeping on these key levels, because they do take some breaching. It's national storage. These guys must have had some earnings to be shot up to there. I don't think this. I think if you're not in that already, if you're in that already, take some money out and go on a holiday. Megaport continue to bounce. We like this when it bounced through the 200 MA, maybe up to 1660. Not sure. It's not massively compelling. If you need something that's a little different, that might do the job. And 360 ASX, he also said keep an eye on for same. A nice bounce, potentially going to close this gap here. That would be the level I get in just in 42.83 is a level to watch. It's breached the 200 MA. It's looking ripe to close this gap, test this support level here from all sorts of angles. This is good technically. Maybe 7% to the upside. That might be a reasonable target, possibly. So there's a couple there to keep an eye on. But probably Zipco my chart of the day if I had to plant my flag in one. Right, okay, looking at some of the US stocks. We've got to have a look at Robinhood. Really nice move. Bounce of support. That point, bounce a couple of days, then we've got confirmation. Some real buyer interest closing near the high of the session, 128. Possible move back up towards at least 138, maybe even 150. Worth keeping on your radar. Depends how brave you're feeling. Let's just open up another one that we can. We've been talking about this all week. has been one to keep an eye on, and there it continues to go. Yeah, that was our chart early on in the week. Continues to smash it out of the proverbial ballpark. Some buying coming back into semiconductors. You can see support lines have been created. AMD is quite interesting. 215 looks like an important level. Maybe, I don't know, maybe $15. It still feels like a good bounce, whichever way you slice it, if you like that long term. MU, we've been banging on about MU for some time. We'll have a quick check in at Southwest Airlines, which is another stock we had a look at. Just trading right now underneath that resistance at 34.54. Keep that on your radar, possibly moving towards 36 in the short term. And then let's have a look at video nicely back up to 180, but still doesn't look quite compelling. AI story still isn't bouncing up and down with recovery at this stage, despite those really great earnings we had from Nvidia. So, and then our favorite over the last 3 weeks has been Remix. Let's call it REMX, the rare earths and strategic metals ETF, which is up around 73.42, which is resistance, which suggests that it could be ready to move back up towards 81. We still like that stock as a medium hold. Anyway, there you go. There's some stocks to have a look at, some other assets as well. I hope that's been interesting, useful. Thank you very much for popping in. I hope the rest of your day is wonderful. I will see some of you later who are doing some EA stuff with me. But either way, have a wonderful rest of Thursday, a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you back here on Monday, same time, same place. Look forward to seeing you there. Take care. Bye for now.